Dante's Inferno, Canto 8. Pelagius, Filippo Argenti, and the gate of the city of Dis. I say, continuing, that long before we to the foot of that high tower had come, our eyes went upward to the summit of it. By reason of two flamelets we saw placed there, and far from afar another answer them, so far that hardly could the eye attain it. And to the sea of all discernment turned, I said, What saith this? And what respondeth that other fire? And who are they that made it? And he to me, Across the turbid waves, what is expected thou canst now discern. It reek of the Morris, conceal it not. Cord never shot an arrow from itself that sped away athwart the air so swift, as I beheld a very little boat come o'er the water towards us at that moment, under the guidance of a single pilot, who shouted, Now art thou arrived, fair soul. Pelagius, thou criest out in vain for this once, said my lord. Thou shalt not have us longer than in the passing of the sloth. He who listens to some great deceit that has been done to him and then resents it, such became Pelagius in his gathered wrath. My guide descended down into the boat, and then he made me enter after him, and only when I entered seemed it laden. Soon as the guide and I were in the boat, the antique prow goes on its way, dividing more of the water than 'twas wont with others. While we were running through the dead canal, uprose in front of me one full of mire, and said, Who art thou that comest ere the hour? And I to him, Although I come, I stay not. But who art thou that hast become so squalid? Thou seest that I am one who weeps, he answered. And I to him, With weeping and with wailing, thou spirit maledict, do thou remain. For thee I know, though thou art all defiled. Then stretched he both his hands unto the boat, whereat my weary master thrust him back, saying, Away there with the other dogs. Thereafter with his arms he clasped my neck, he kissed my face, and said, Disdainful soul, blessed be she who bore thee in her bosom, that was an arrogant person in the world. Goodness is none that decks his memory, so likewise here his shade is furious. How many are esteemed great kings up there, who here shall be like unto swine and mire, leaving behind them terrible disgraces. And I, my master, much should I be pleased, if I could see him soused unto this broth before we issue forth out of the lake. And he to me, Ere unto thee the shore reveal itself, thou shalt be satisfied. Such a desire 'tis meet thou shouldest enjoy. And a little after that, I saw such havoc made of him by the people of the mire that still I praise and thank my God for it. They all were shouting, Et Filippo Argenti! And that exasperate spirit Florentine turned round upon himself with his own teeth. We left him there, and more of him I tell not, but on mine ears there smote a lamentation, whence forward I intent to unbar mine eyes. And the good master said, Even now, my son, the city draweth near, whose name is Dis, with the grave citizens, with the great throng. And I, It's mosque already, master, clearly within there in the valley I discern vermilion, as if issuing from fire they were. And he said to me, the fire eternal that enkindles them within makes them look red, and thou beholdest in this nether hell. Then we arrived within the moats profound that circumvallate the disconsolate city. The walls appeared to me to be of iron. Not without making first a circuit wide, we came unto a place where loud the pilot cried out to us, debark, here's the entrance. More than 1,000 at the gates I saw out of the heavens rain down, who angrily were saying, who is this that without death goes to the kingdom of the people dead? And my sagacious master made a sign of wishing secretly to speak with them. And little then they quelled their great disdain and said, come thou alone, and he be gone who has so boldly entered these dominions. Let him return alone by his mad road. Try if he can, for thou shalt here remain, who hast escorted him through such dark regions. Think, reader, if I was discomforted at utterance of the accursed words, for never to return here I believed. O my dear guide, who more than 7 times hast rendered me security and drawn me from imminent peril that before me stood, do not desert me, said I, thus undone, and if the going forward be denied us, let us retrace our steps together swiftly. And that Lord, who had led me thitherward, said unto me, fear not, because our passage none can take from us. It by such is given. But here await me, and thy weary spirit comforted and nourished with a better hope. For in this nether world I will not leave thee. So onward goes, and there abandons me my father's sweet, and I remain in doubt. For no, and yes, within my head contend, I could not hear what he proposed to them. But with them there he did not linger long, ere each within in rivalry ran back. They closed the portals, those our adversaries, on my lord's breast, who had remained without and turned to me with footsteps far between. His eyes cast down his forehead, shorn had he of all its boldness, and he said with sighs, who has denied to me the dolesome houses? And unto me, thou, because I am angry, fear not, for I will conquer in the trial, whatever for defense within be planned. This arrogance of theirs is nothing new, for once they used it at less secret gate, which finds itself without a fastening still. O'er it didst thou behold the dead inscription, and now this side of it descends the steep, passing across the circles without escort. One by whose means the city shall be opened. So this is a very interstitial canto, neither here nor there, just leading us from one place to the other, a transition, if you will. 2 things of note before I leave you. One is Filippo Argenti. I would almost say, if it weren't for the fact that we were looking upon the face of Dis, the inner city of hell, that we get to it at the end and we're seeing Virgil negotiate their entrance, that this was almost a passive-aggressive canto. This was Dante, true to form of all of the Divine Comedy, taking a dig at one of his adversaries. So if you recall from last week's canto, those who are in the river, Styx, the Stygian river, eat at each other, both themselves and each other. And so Dante spots an adversary from Florence in this river, and there's no mercy. He's glad to see him being devoured alive by the other souls in the Stygian river. And unlike the rest of the Divine Comedy, where we see a consequence and a justice done, we don't see any mercy, we don't see a justification for Filippo Argenti's fate other than his relationship to Dante. So I can't help but write off 2/3 of this canto as pettiness. However, at the end, we do see the entrance to the city of Dis. And that's what I find interesting, is that on one hand, Virgil comforts Dante, saying, we will get in because such has given it to us. And if you were to see the actual book, such is capitalized, so meaning God. We will get through this because God has ordained that we will get through this. Yet at the same time, not only does he have to negotiate with the guards of the entrance to Dis, but he even comes back wearied by them. That's something to think about.